Hello and welcome to Read and Learn English. Today's story will help you improve your English through emotions, real-life situations, and clear, natural sentences. As you listen, try to feel the meaning, not just understand the words. This is a story about judgment, silence, and a truth that no one expected. My name is Leora Vance. I am a financial consultant, and I help small businesses grow. I am 32 years old, and I have always lived a quiet, simple life. I do not wear expensive clothes. I do not talk about money, and I never tell people about my past, because sometimes silence protects you better than the truth. 3 years ago, I met a man named Callan Drax. We met at a small bookstore cafe. I remember that day very clearly. It was raining, and the windows were full of soft water lines. I was sitting alone, reading a book about business strategy. Callan walked in, shaking rain from his coat, and sat at the table next to mine. He smiled at me. It was a warm, natural smile. Not forced, not fake. "Is that book good?" he asked. I looked up, a little surprised. I usually did not talk to strangers. "It's useful," I said. "Maybe not exciting." He laughed softly. "Useful is better than exciting sometimes." That was the first time we spoke. Simple, calm, nothing special. But something stayed with me. After that day, we started seeing each other more often. Sometimes at the same cafe. Sometimes walking in the park. Our conversations were easy. He told me about his work. He was a project manager at a construction company. He worked long hours. He wanted to build something meaningful in his life. I listened. I shared small parts of my life too, but never everything. Callan was kind, patient, honest. At least, that's what I believed. After 6 months, he asked me to meet his family. I hesitated. Family meetings can change everything. But I said yes. I remember the first time I walked into his parents' house. It was large, bright, and carefully designed. Everything looked perfect. Too perfect. His mother, Tamsin, greeted me at the door. She looked at me from head to toe. Her smile was polite, but her eyes were cold. "Nice to meet you, Leora," she said, but it did not feel nice. At dinner, his father, Alaric, asked many questions. "What do you do, Leora?" "I'm a financial consultant," I answered calmly. "Oh," he said, "for big companies?" "Mostly small businesses," I said. He nodded slowly, not impressed. Then his sister, Brill, joined the conversation. She was sharp and direct. "So, how did you and Callan meet?" she asked. "At a bookstore cafe," I said. She smiled, but it felt like a test. "How simple," she said. The room became quiet for a moment. I felt something strange, something uncomfortable. They were judging me, not because of what I said, but because of what I did not show. I was wearing a simple dress, no jewelry, no designer bag, nothing that showed wealth, because I never needed to prove anything. But to them, it meant something else. That night, when we left the house, I asked Callan a quiet question. "Do they like me?" He paused. "They just need time," he said. That answer stayed in my mind. Time. Sometimes time changes people, but sometimes it reveals them. Over the next few months, I visited his family many times, and slowly I began to understand something. They did not trust me. I noticed the small things. His mother would ask questions about my background again and again. "Where is your family from? Why don't you talk about them? Do you own a house?" His father often talked about money at the dinner table, about success, about status. And every time, he would look at me, just for a second, as if he was measuring my value. Brielle was more direct. One evening, When Callan left the room, she leaned closer to me and said quietly, "You're very quiet about your life." I looked at her calmly. "I prefer privacy." She smiled slightly. "Or maybe you don't have much to say?" Her words were soft but sharp, like a hidden knife. I did not respond, because I had learned something important in life. Not every attack needs an answer, but deep inside, I felt something growing. Not anger, not fear, something else. Distance. Then, one night, everything changed. It was Callan's birthday. His family planned a big dinner. Many relatives were there. The house was full of laughter, music, and conversation. I brought a small gift. Something personal, something meaningful. But when I gave it to him, his mother looked at the box and raised her eyebrow. "That's modest," she said. I smiled politely. "It's from the heart," I replied. She gave a short laugh. "I'm sure it is." Later that evening, I went to the kitchen to get some water. The door was slightly open. I heard voices inside. Tamsin, Brielle, and Alaric. They were talking about me. "She's too simple," Tamsin said. "She doesn't have a strong background," Alaric added. Brielle's voice was quiet but clear. "I think she's waiting." "Waiting for what?" Tamsin asked. "For Callan," Brielle said. "For his future. For his money." There was a short silence. Then Tamsin spoke again. "A gold digger." The words froze me in place. A gold digger. Someone who pretends to love, but only wants money. My hand tightened around the glass. My heart was calm. Too calm, because in that moment, I understood something very clearly. They had already decided who I was, without knowing the truth, without asking, without listening. I stepped back quietly and returned to the living room. I did not say anything. I did not show anything. But inside me, something had changed forever. That night, as I looked at Callan laughing with his family, one question kept repeating in my mind. Did he believe them too? Or was he the only one who didn't know the truth about me? And more importantly, what would happen if they finally did? I took a slow breath and looked at him one more time, because very soon, everything was about to change. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. The sky was still gray, and the city felt quiet. I sat by the window with a cup of coffee, but I did not drink it. My mind was full. The words from last night were still there. A gold digger. They did not shout it. They did not say it to my face. But sometimes quiet words hurt more. I asked myself one simple question. Should I tell the truth? I had kept my life private for many years. Not because I was ashamed, not because I was hiding something bad, but because I learned, very early in life, that money changes how people see you. When I was younger, my family was not rich. We lived in a small house. My parents worked hard every day. But when my grandfather passed away, everything changed. He left me something no one expected. A large company. A very successful one. I was only 24 at the time. I did not understand everything at first. I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong people. I felt lost. But slowly, year by year, I learned. I studied finance. I worked quietly. I built my own path inside the company. And today, I was not just a consultant. I was the owner. But I never told anyone outside my professional life, because I wanted something real. Real conversations, real connections, real love, not people who smiled because of my bank account. So I stayed silent. Until now. That morning, I sent a message to Callan. "Can we talk tonight?" He replied quickly. "Of course. Everything okay?" I looked at the screen for a moment. "Yes," I typed. Just want to talk. But it was not just a talk. It was a decision. That evening, we met at the same cafe where we first met. The rain was softer this time, almost gentle. Callan smiled when he saw me, but I noticed something different in his eyes, something uncertain. We sat down, and for a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he took a breath. "My family," he started. I raised my hand slightly. "Let me speak first," I said calmly. He nodded. I looked at him carefully, not with anger, not with fear, but with honesty. "Last night, I heard them," I said. His face changed immediately. "Leora, They think I'm with you for money," I continued. He looked down at the table. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. I waited. Just 1 second. Then I asked the question that mattered most. "And you?" I said. "What do you think?" The silence between us felt heavy. Callan did not answer right away. He rubbed his hands together, a small habit he had when he was nervous. "I don't believe that," he said finally, but his voice was not strong, not clear, not sure. I felt it, and that feeling hurt more than his family's words. "You don't sound certain," I said softly. He looked at me again. "It's not that," he said. "It's just, you don't share much about your life. My family doesn't understand you." "That's not my responsibility," I replied calmly. "I know," he said quickly, "but it makes things harder." Harder? For who? For him or for the truth? I leaned back slightly and crossed my hands. "Let me ask you something, Callan," I said. "Okay. If I had nothing, no money, no success, would your family accept me?" He did not answer. That was my answer. I nodded slowly. "I see," I said. "Leora, it's not like that," he said, a little louder now. "They just want the best for me." "And what is the best?" I asked. He paused again. This time, longer. I could see the conflict in his face. Love, pressure, doubt, all mixed together. And in that moment, I understood something important. This was not just about his family. This was about him too. "I need to be honest with you," I said. He looked up. "There is something about me that you don't know," I continued. He leaned forward slightly. "What is it?" I held his gaze. "I didn't tell you everything about my work." He frowned a little. "You said you're a consultant." "I am," I said, "but that's not all." The air between us felt still. "I own the company I work for," I said calmly. He blinked. "What?" "I inherited it from my grandfather, and I've been running it for years." He stared at me, trying to understand. "That company? The one you mentioned before?" he asked. "Yes." "The one with international clients?" "Yes." His face went pale. "That company is huge," he said slowly. "I know," I replied. "And you're the owner?" "Yes." The silence returned. But this time it was different, not heavy, not tense, just shocked. Callan leaned back in his chair. I didn't know," he said. "I never told you," I said. "Why?" "Because I wanted to see who you are without that information," I answered honestly. He ran his hand through his hair. "This is a lot," he said. "I understand," I replied. He looked at me again, but now his eyes were searching, trying to connect everything, trying to change the story in his mind. "My family, they think you want money," he said quietly. "I know," I said. He let out a small, nervous laugh. "This is ironic." I did not smile, because for me, it was not funny. It was revealing. "I'm going to tell them," he said suddenly. I shook my head. "No?" He looked surprised. "No? I will tell them," I said. "When?" "Soon." "Why not now?" he asked. I paused for a moment. Because this part mattered. "Because I don't want to prove them wrong," I said slowly. I want to show them who they really are." He did not fully understand my words, but he felt them. I could see it. That night, we left the cafe in silence. But it was not an empty silence. It was full of questions, full of change, and full of something we could not stop anymore. The truth was no longer hidden, but the real test was just beginning, because very soon I would stand in front of his family again, and this time they would finally see me, not as they imagined, but as I truly was, and not everyone would be ready for that. 2 days later, Callan invited me to another family dinner. When he told me, his voice was careful, almost nervous. "They want to see you again," he said. I understood what that meant. They did not want to know me. They wanted to judge me again. But this time, I was ready. That evening, I stood in front of my closet for a long time. I looked at my simple dresses, the ones I always wore. Soft colors, clean lines, nothing loud. Then my eyes moved to another section, clothes I almost never touched. Elegant, sharp, powerful. For a moment, I thought about wearing something from there, something that would immediately change how they saw me. But then I shook my head. No, I would not change for them, not even now. I chose a simple dark blue dress, the same style as always, calm, quiet, honest. Because tonight was not about appearance, it was about truth. When I arrived at the house, the lights were bright, and I could hear voices inside, laughter, glasses touching, conversations. Callan opened the door. He looked at me, and for a second, he just stared. "You look the same," he said. I smiled slightly. "I am the same." He nodded, but I could see something different in his eyes now. Respect. And maybe a little uncertainty. We walked inside together. His family was already seated at the table. Tamsin, Alaric, and Brielle all turned to look at me. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. They had already decided what kind of person I was. Again. Tamsin smiled politely. "Leora, welcome back." "Thank you," I said calmly. Dinner began as usual. Small talk, light conversation, nothing deep. But under the surface, something was waiting. I could feel it. Every question, every look, every small pause. They were watching me, testing me, and I let them. After some time, Alaric leaned back in his chair and looked at me. "So, Leora," he said, "have you made any big progress in your career?" His tone was casual, but I understood the meaning. He was measuring me again. "Yes," I said simply. "Oh?" he replied. "In what way?" I took a small breath. "I've been expanding my work," I said, "taking on more responsibility." Brielle smiled slightly. "That sounds vague," she said. I met her eyes. "It's not vague to me," I replied. She held my gaze for a second, then looked away. Callan stayed quiet. Too quiet. That hurt more than I expected. Then Tamsin spoke. "Leora," she said softly, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but what are your long-term plans?" There it was. The real question, not about my career, not about my goals, but about my place in their family. "I plan to continue building my work," I said, "and living a life that feels honest." She tilted her head slightly. "And what about stability?" she asked. "I have stability," I replied. Alaric gave a small laugh. "Well, stability usually means more than just feelings," he said. I looked at him calmly. "I agree," I said. The room became quiet again. Then Brielle spoke, her voice sharper now. "Can I ask something more direct?" she said. "Yes," I answered. "Are you planning to depend on Callan in the future?" she asked. Callan shifted in his seat. "Brielle," he started, but I raised my hand slightly. "It's okay," I said. I looked directly at her. No, I said clearly. I am not. She raised her eyebrow. Then what are you planning? She asked. I paused. This was the moment. Not loud, not dramatic, just clear. I'm planning to continue running my company, I said. There was a short silence. Then Alaric frowned. Running? He repeated. You mean working at? No, I said calmly. I mean owning. The words landed softly, but their effect was strong. What? Tamsin said, her voice almost a whisper. I own the company I work for, I continued. I've been managing it for years. No one spoke, not immediately. Brielle blinked. That's not possible, she said slowly. It is, I replied. Alaric leaned forward. Which company? He asked. I told him the name. The room froze. Because they knew it. Of course they did. It was not a small company. It was successful, international, respected. And suddenly, everything changed. Tamsin's face lost its color. Brielle looked at Callan, then back at me. You're serious? She asked. Yes, I said. Callan finally spoke. It's true, he said quietly. I didn't know until recently. Silence filled the room again. But this silence was different. It was heavy with realization, with shock, with something they could not control anymore. Alaric leaned back slowly. This changes things, he said. I looked at him carefully. No, I said. It doesn't. He frowned. What do you mean? I mean, I continued, this only changes what you think of me. No one answered, because they knew I was right. I was the same person before you knew this, I said calmly, and I am the same person now. Brielle crossed her arms. But you didn't tell us, she said. You didn't ask to understand, I replied. Her lips pressed together. Tamsin finally spoke, her voice softer now. Leora, we may have misunderstood you. I held her gaze. Yes, I said. You did. The room felt smaller, tighter, because the truth was now sitting at the table with us, and no one could ignore it. Then I looked at Callan. This part mattered more than everything else. He looked back at me, his expression full of emotion, but also confusion. I wish you told me earlier, he said quietly. I felt something in my chest, a small break. I was waiting, I said. For what? He asked. For you to trust me without needing proof, I answered. He looked down, and in that moment, I understood something I did not want to accept. The truth did not bring us closer. It showed the distance between us. Because now, everything was clear, not just who I was, but who they were, and who he was. The dinner ended early. No one laughed anymore. No one made small talk. The energy in the house had changed completely. As I walked out of the door, I felt something strange. Not relief, not sadness, just clarity. Callan followed me outside. Leora, he said, wait. I stopped, but I did not turn around immediately, because I already knew this moment would change everything, and I was not sure if we could go back from here. I stood still for a moment before turning around. Callan was looking at me, but his eyes were not the same as before. There was something heavy in them, regret maybe, or confusion. Leora, he said again, softer this time, please don't leave like this. I looked at him calmly. The night air was cool, and the street was quiet. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm just moving forward. He took a step closer. I didn't know, he said. If I knew, I would have. I gently shook my head. That's the problem, I said. He stopped. You would have what? I asked. Treated me differently? Defended me sooner? Trusted me more? He did not answer, because he knew. His silence said everything. I took a slow breath. I didn't hide the truth to play games, I continued. I hid it because I wanted something real. I wanted someone to see me, not my money. I do see you, he said quickly. I looked at him carefully. You're starting to, I replied, but only after the truth made things clear for you. He looked down, his hands tense at his sides. That's not fair, he said quietly. I felt a small sadness in my chest. Maybe not, I said, but it's honest. There was a long pause between us. Cars passed slowly on the road. A soft wind moved through the trees. I care about you, he said finally. I know, I replied, and I want to fix this, he added. I nodded slightly. But this isn't something you can fix in one night, I said. He looked at me again. Then give me time, he said. I thought about his words. Time. He had asked for time before, and I had given it. But now I understood something clearly. Time does not change truth. It only reveals it. I'm not closing the door, I said slowly, but I'm not standing still anymore. He swallowed hard. What does that mean? He asked. It means I need space, I answered, and you need to understand what matters to you, without pressure from your family. He nodded slowly. And if I do? He asked. I held his gaze. Then maybe we can talk again, I said. There were no promises in my voice, only honesty. He stepped back, giving me space. I'm sorry, Leora, he said. I gave him a small, gentle smile. I know, I replied, and then I turned and walked away. Not in anger, not in pain, but in strength. Because sometimes the hardest choice is not to stay. It is to walk away with dignity. In the weeks that followed, my life became quiet again. I returned to my work. My company needed me. There were meetings, decisions, challenges, and I felt strong there, clear, in control. But inside, I was also healing. I thought about everything that happened, about judgment, about silence, about truth. And I learned something important. People often decide who you are before they know you. And when the truth comes, it does not always change their hearts. It only shows their real thoughts. One afternoon, about a month later, I received a message. It was from Callan. I've been thinking a lot. Can we meet? I stared at the message for a moment. Then I replied, yes. We met again at the same cafe, the same place where everything began. This time, the sun was shining. The windows were clear, no rain. Callan looked different, not in his clothes, but in his presence, more calm, more certain. Thank you for meeting me, he said. You're welcome, I replied. We sat down. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Then he spoke. I was wrong, he said. His voice was steady. I didn't trust you the way I should have, and I let my family's opinions affect me. I listened quietly. I've had some difficult conversations with them, he continued, and with myself. I nodded slightly. And? I asked. He took a deep breath. I want a life that feels honest, he said. Not controlled, not based on fear or status. His words sounded familiar, because they were close to mine. And what does that mean for us? I asked. He looked at me directly. It means I want to try again, he said. I felt something move inside me. Hope, but also caution. Things won't be the same, I said. I know, he replied. It will take time, I added. I understand, he said. And your family? I asked. He paused. They are learning, he said. Slowly, I smiled a little. Learning is a good start, I said. He smiled back. And you? He asked. Are you willing to try? I thought about everything, the past, the pain, the truth, and the growth. Then I answered honestly. Yes, I said, but slowly. He nodded. Slowly is good, he said, and in that moment, I felt something gentle. Not a big, dramatic love. Not a perfect ending, but something real. Something growing. And this time, it was built on truth. Not assumptions, not silence, but understanding. And maybe that was stronger than anything else. Because in the end, this story was never about money. It was about value. The value we see in others, and the value we see in ourselves. And the lesson is simple. Do not judge someone by what they show or what they hide, because the truth is often deeper than what you see. And sometimes, the person you underestimate is the one who teaches you the most. Now, it's time to learn some useful vocabulary from today's story. Gold digger means a person who is with someone mainly for money, not love. Example: they called her a gold digger, but they were wrong. Judgment means forming an opinion about someone, often without full information. Example: quick judgment can hurt people. Privacy means keeping personal life or information to yourself. Example: she values her privacy and does not share everything. Trust means believing someone is honest and reliable. Example: trust takes time to build. Dignity means calm confidence and self-respect. Example: she walked away with dignity. Reveal means to show something that was hidden. Example: the truth revealed everything. Assumption means something you believe without proof. Example: his assumption was not correct. Now let's do some shadowing practice. I wanted something real. They judged me without knowing me. I stayed silent for a reason. The truth changed everything. I chose to walk away. I needed honesty, not approval. We can try again, slowly. I know my value. Thank you so much for listening and learning with me today. What do you think about Leora's decision? Have you ever been judged unfairly? Would you give Callan another chance? Keep practicing your English every day, step by step. See you in the next story. Goodbye.